It was 48 years ago that a young senator from Massachusetts brought his presidential campaign to West Virginia. John Kennedy won the Democratic nomination over Minnesota Senator Hubert Humphrey that year. Kennedy was quick to credit West Virginia Democrats for putting him over the top. West Virginia Wesleyan political science professor Robert Rupp has studied John Kennedy and his 1960 primary win. He joins us tonight and brings with him some political ads that the Kennedy campaign used at the time. Dr. Rupp, welcome. Glad you're here.
I'm glad this is the topic.
Where did you find these?
I found these at the John Kennedy Library. I've been researching this primary, and in fact, I teach a course on it because it's a good case study about politics interacting with a candidate.
These are very primitive ads. I want to warn our viewers, they don't look like today's slick ads at all. These are very, very primitive. Why are they important?
Well, they're important because they reflect the effort, the strategy of John Kennedy, and explain in part his success. Yes, this was really about the first time we have ads in a presidential primaries. Remember, in 1960, there were only 6 contested primaries, and this was the most important. So ads were new. So what the viewers will see is not the 15-second soundbite. Some of these ads went 2 to 3 minutes, so they actually talked about issues.
Let's look at the first one and perhaps help set this up.
That is why it is so important that Senator John F. Kennedy, front-running candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency, should visit the coal mining areas of West Virginia, there to learn firsthand from the miners some of their problems, and there to answer their questions. Here is Senator Kennedy at Slab Fork Mine in Raleigh County, where a coal miner has just asked him,
"What are your plans if elected president for the situation existing in the coal mines in West Virginia?"
Well, I think that I've been in the Congress now for 14 years, and the fact is that in my own state of Massachusetts, we've had a similar problem because we've lost all our textile industry. And the same problem which has hit West Virginia, which is the loss of employment in the mines. I think there are at least 4 or 5 things the government can do. First is the area redevelopment bill, which I floor managed on the first time it passed the Senate, which permits the credit of the federal government to be loaned to new businesses coming in, new industries coming in, which can provide for fresh water for communities, which can provide for vocational training, extra unemployment compensation, and all the rest. The second, I think, is the coal research bill, which provides for new uses for coal.
Well, what do you think about so much help going to foreign countries instead of being given to the United States in the depressed areas?
Well, now, one of the things which we send abroad is surplus food. I've been the sponsor, some of the other senators sponsored a food stamp bill. One of the things which I sponsored was to take it out of the Department of Agriculture and put it in the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. A lot of this food which comes down to West Virginia, it's badly distributed. The diet is bad. They ought to add milk, eggs, butter, and chickens and all the rest, so that these people who are older and who have not been able to find a job, if they're going to receive assistance, it ought to be assistance they can use.
Social Security.
That is so interesting. Here is John Kennedy in a coal mine, no safety equipment, no hard hat. He's in a suit.
In a suit, and all during the campaign, he was here 3 weeks. He always kept the suit on. That was kind of the Kennedy mystique. But isn't that amazing down the coal mine? And you saw it was totally unrehearsed. Did you see those miners? Both of them kind of looked, who is this guy? What's he doing? But Beth, coal was key, and he was right down there with them answering their question. It was a very important visual.
It was really interesting to hear him talk about the coal research bill and finding new uses for coal in 1960. This is what the candidates are talking about today. Can Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama go inside a coal mine today and campaign from there? Is the climate even like that anymore?
I don't know, but I think they should if they want to visualize give us a visualization that I'm concerned. Also, did you notice in that long ad, he ticked off, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Very concrete issues are being delivered. Issues are being discussed.
Celebrity endorsements, nothing new for candidates even then as they are today. Celebrity endorsements are pretty important to candidates today, and even more important in a general election. But here is an ad featuring Henry Fonda and Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. Let's take a look at this.
Gentlemen, Henry Fonda.
I've always been an admirer of Franklin D. Roosevelt.
So I was especially interested recently when I saw a movie of FDR as a young man. His fight against polio, his courage, his endurance, his will to live. It was an experience that history says had a deep influence on the leadership he gave our country's president. At a time when our country was hurt and stricken, when we all needed courage and endurance. I know another man like that with the same strong character, the indomitable will to live. This I've known for over 15 years, ever since I read an article in the Reader's Digest by John Hersey about a young naval officer in the Solomon Islands during some of the darkest days and nights of World War II.
Roosevelt is being vividly brought back to West Virginia as the son of the late great president travels throughout every section of the state in support of the candidacy of Senator John F. Kennedy. Here is FDR Jr. at Cabin Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Young. And I, too, am very glad to be here tonight in Cabin Creek. And I'd like to talk to you very honestly and very frankly about the importance of this campaign, which will end in your primary on May the 10th here in West Virginia. I guarantee you that if he carries West Virginia, he'll win the nomination, and once more we'll have a Democrat in the White House. Thank you very much.
There you have it. Franklin Delano Roosevelt Jr. urging that you support Senator John F. Kennedy. In other talks, FDR Jr. has said, John Kennedy has the same heart, the same feeling for the people as my father. He is picking up where my father left off. Remember this when you vote on May 10th. Vote Kennedy.
And the message is clear. If you liked FDR, you'll like JFK. Is the message the same today? If you liked Bill Clinton, you're going to like Hillary
And
Clinton.
I think that's an advantage that Hillary Clinton enjoys. You know, in Appalachian political culture, we want someone we can identify with. And if we can't identify them with, then we want someone to introduce, you know, say it's okay. So what you had in that picture was, here was, you know, Henry Fonda saying this is the new FDR. Yes. And then you had FDR's son saying this is just like my father. And these pictures in the back. You know, Kennedy was smart enough to know that as a Harvard-educated millionaire Catholic, he might have trouble. But what do? You go out and get people and say, this guy is okay, he can help us.
Here's another instance of a campaign ad. Lots of pictures of Kennedy at the Capitol in Charleston, so you will definitely see some familiar scenes here. So let's watch this ad from the Kennedy campaign.
I came into the state of West Virginia very gladly. I didn't have to enter the primary. I entered it by choice. I don't know whether there's any such thing as a typical American state. I'm sure Massachusetts isn't. And I think you have sort of 50 individual states, but I think this is a state where I think the candidates are going to be treated very fairly. We have been up to now, and I think we will be in the future. And I think that West Virginia, probably more than any other state in the Union, wants to have a serious discussion on the major issues. West Virginia cannot afford, nor can the United States, to spend its time talking about matters which have really been settled by the Constitution. I think the people of this state would like some action. Certainly overdue, and it is to the question of how we can get action that I think the candidates should address themselves in this primary. In any case, I'm glad I entered West Virginia, and I think we'll have a very good primary and be treated very fairly. Well, I think it is important. I think any primary is important, and I think this one is going to be important too. There's going to be a good deal of attention paid to it. Some of the people who talk the most about how primaries aren't really significant are paying the most attention to the West Virginia primary. I think this will be an important primary. And, of course, I would say we're going to have a hard fight here.
This almost looks like a newsreel. This is some sort of perhaps interview that John F. Kennedy gave, and then there is a lot of good footage of him campaigning in Charleston around it. But an important message and themes that we still hear today.
Yes, but what's different is you sort of got that interaction. I mean, today our candidates travel around in a bubble. Part of that is imposed by the Secret Service, but part of that I think is imposed by themselves.